Investigators in Texas are starting to piece together what was behind this weekend's mass shooting at a church in a small Texas town. 26 people were killed in an attack about 30 miles southeast of San Antonio. Some 20 others were wounded. The First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs was quiet today, one day after services erupted in carnage. Officials say 26-year-old Devin Kelly opened fire with an assault-type rifle in the largest mass shooting in Texas history. Investigators are now trying to determine his motive.
But we can tell you that there was a domestic situation going on within this family. The suspect's mother-in-law attended this church. We know that he had made threatening texts from him.
Kelly had served in the Air Force, but in 2012 he was convicted of assaulting his first wife and a child, served a year in military prison, and received a bad conduct discharge. Yesterday morning, authorities say he parked at a gas station across from the church. Fred Kernow watched from his home as a figure in black clothing and a black mask with a white skull face opened fire, reloaded, and kept going.
He was just shooting the church from the outside. He was going from the face of the church around to the side, and he kept just unloading clip after clip. I duck down, I'm making sure, he doesn't see me or anything, and then he proceeds forward shooting still. He then opens the church and goes in, and then I kept hearing gunshots.
Police say another neighbor ran out of his home with a rifle, firing at the shooter. Kelly was wounded and dropped his rifle just as Johnny Langendorf drove by.
The shooter got in his truck. The gentleman with the rifle came to my truck as the shooter took off, and he briefed me quickly on what had just happened and said that we had to get him, and so that's what I did.
The two men chased Kelly at high speed for 11 miles.
I was on the phone with dispatch the entire time. As far as I could see, Wilson County police were all headed to the church, and on 539 I did not see any police, and so I gave them the direction we were going, on what road and everything, and that the vehicle was in sight, and I was picking up, getting closer and closer.
Finally, Kelly's SUV ran off the road. When police arrived, they found he'd shot himself with one of the two guns he still had with him.
We know during that pursuit, the suspect used his cell phone to notify his father that he had been shot and didn't think he was going to make it.
At the church, Fred Kernow had run to help victims.
I'm right in the doorway, and I looked around, and there was just casings everywhere. And when I looked to the side, I did see a couple small children not moving. They were not moving.
The dead ranged in age from 18 months to 77 years old. They included 8 members of a single family, a pregnant woman, and the pastor's 14-year-old daughter, Annabelle Pomeroy. Her mother spoke today.
One thing that gives me a sliver of encouragement is the fact that Belle was surrounded yesterday by her church family that she loved fiercely, and vice versa. Our church was not comprised of members or parishioners. We were a very close family. We ate together, we laughed together, we cried together, and we worshiped together. Now most of our church family is gone. Our building is probably beyond repair. And the few of us that are left behind lost tragically yesterday.
All of America is praying for you, supporting you, and grieving alongside of you.
From Tokyo, President Trump ordered flags to be flown at half-staff. He called the shooting an act of evil.
It's a very deranged individual, a lot of problems over a long period of time. We have a lot of mental health problems in our country, as do other countries. But this isn't a guns situation.
Authorities say Kelly had been denied a license to carry a concealed weapon, but managed to buy at least 2 guns after background checks.
We left them all.
For more, we're joined by Joey Palacios of Texas Public Radio, who's across the street from the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Joey, thanks for joining us. First, Joey, can you give us a sense of what the mood in this community is like today?
people here are still trying to figure out what has happened to their loved ones. I've gotten a few stories here and there of people who know some of their loved ones are already dead and others who aren't quite sure what their status is. We know that 26 people are dead and at least 20 were taken to the hospital. At last we heard there are about 14 people still in the hospital. No official names have been released, but we hope that authorities will start releasing names soon.
And I have to imagine in a community this size, about, as I understand it, about 400 people, even if you didn't lose a member of your family, you have to know someone who did or know someone who did lose their life.
That's right. This community, as you mentioned, is around 400 people, and this is the type of town where everyone knows everyone. In the gas station that's right across the street from First Baptist Church, I've talked to the two clerks that have been there throughout the day, and there are people that come in and they're just happy to see that they're alive, that they're okay. I've had one woman tell me, who runs the taco shop inside of this convenience store, that people inside this church, the people that regularly come to this church, will go to this shop on a regular basis. So they're like family. They have nicknames for these folks that come in here.
Joey, I know you talked to Johnny Langendorf, who was one of those who chased the shooter in this case. What did he tell you what that was like? What was going on during that chase?
So Langendorf was here for a short time this morning, and he gave us an account of what happened. So outside of the church, there was a neighbor who began firing at the suspect as he came out. Langendorf was here outside the church in his vehicle when this neighbor, who he only identified as Steve, came up to Langendorf and said what had happened, that somebody was shooting at the church and that he was trying to get away. Well, this gentleman, this neighbor, Steve, jumped into Langendorf's car, and Langendorf told us earlier that he reached up to 90 miles an hour trying to chase this suspect out of town. Sometime during this point, it could be that the suspect did a self-inflicted gunshot wound, because Langendorf says that they saw the suspect careen off of the street into a ditch. They then got out of their car, and the neighbor took his own rifle and pointed it at the suspect, telling him to get out of the car, but the suspect did not. And that's when deputies arrived and took over the situation.
Joey, tell us what you're hearing about some of the victims.
So I've talked to two people here who both tell me about a woman named Joanne Ward. They tell me that she is in her 30s and was attending church here with at least 3 of her children. They know that Miss Ward is dead, and at least 2 of her children are dead. She was described as a vibrant community member here, a daycare worker, and one of the gentlemen that I spoke to was in tears as he recounted of how much he loved this woman, how much of a friend that she was. So these people are just starting to realize that their friends, their family aren't going to be coming home because of the actions of this suspect.
Joey Palacios of Texas Public Radio in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Thank you very much.
John, thank you.
Texas Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar represents Sutherland Springs, and he's been briefed throughout the day on the latest developments in the investigation. We spoke a short time ago. I began by asking him what he knows about a motive at this time.
But since yesterday, I've been saying that there had to be some sort of nexus or connection to somebody that attended that church. I know the geography very well because I represent the northern part where Comel's at, and of course now the southeast of San Antonio. And you don't just go into a very rural community, small, very community, without having a reason. And I think this is where the investigation, the texting, the threatening messaging, I think that's what we're seeing right now. And that's the nexus that I've been talking about since yesterday.
You'd say this is a very small community. I think I've heard only about 400 people. What are you hearing from people there, from your constituents, about how they're coping with this?
You know, they're going through a very difficult time, going through grief, the grieving. They're going through the healing process. Everybody knows each other. Everybody, you know, once the names are all released, or some names have been released, but once the names of all the victims are going to be released, everybody will know every single person there because it's a very small community. I've been there. I've done parades there. I've visited there. And it's one of those places where everybody knows each other, and it's very difficult because, you know, a community of 400 or 500 individuals, it's like a large family that's just been hurt immensely.
Earlier today, the president said this is not a gun issue, this was a mental health issue. Do you agree?
Well, you know, I want to see what the investigation comes up to, because apparently he tried to get a gun permit under Texas. Didn't happen. But at the same time, he was able to get some guns. I think 2 in Texas, 2 in Colorado. We've been in contact with the law enforcement. I want them to do the investigation so we can talk a little bit more about it. But again, it looks like there was a breakdown in the system. I want to know, where was the breakdown in the system? How did somebody who was dishonorably discharged, had some domestic violence issues with his ex-wife and his child, how was this person able to get this gun? And this is something that I think the investigation will tell us what happened there.
You talk about you want to figure out where the system broke down. Is this a case of needing to enforce laws that are already on the books?
Well, again, let's see what the investigation tells us. It might be that we need to enforce that law. It might have to be that, you know, we do need. Everybody talks about mental illnesses. I'm one of those, but I want to see more money to put in. You know, how do we treat those individuals? Because if somebody wants to kill somebody, they can use a gun. They can use a truck like they did in New York and other places in the world. They can use an airplane like 9/11. They can use a knife. They can use the bare hands. Let's see what are we talking about here, and see what actions we need to take.
We've seen 3 of the most deadly mass shootings in modern U.S. history have occurred in the last 18 months. 2 of them in the last 36 days. There will be, I'm sure, a lot of people who will be calling for new gun control. What's your position on that?
Well, again, I'm a big believer in the Second Amendment. Keep in mind also that the persons were able to probably prevent some killings there in Sutherland Springs. It was an individual that confronted him and started shooting at the suspect, and the suspect ran away. I mean, the suspect started shooting at innocent individuals in the church, but when somebody confronted him with a gun, he ran off like a coward. He was a coward in the church. He was a coward when he ran off. But again, you know, this discussion has been going for a long time. I think people are already set in their positions right now. I'm hoping we can find maybe some sort of middle ground to address this without going against the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
Representative Henry Cuellar of Texas, who represents the district where the shooting took place. Thank you so much for your time, and our condolences to your constituents.
Thank you so much.